Well, it's a joy to be with all of you today and to be speaking with some friends I've met before and some recent. Um, when I was introduced a few minutes ago, Nara mentioned that I helped with Australia. Well, we've all helped with many, many places where master's teachings want to be. And it was a joy for me over the many years in many different roles as our outreach at Ananda has developed dramatically in the last 20 years. I've been a part of that time frame and have seen a lot of changes. But one of Swami's, maybe you've heard this already, but one of Swami Kriyananda's hopes was that Australia one day would be a very active part of Ananda. And Nara mentioned, or Kalamali mentioned earlier, that C word, COVID, you know, the, which turned out actually to be a blessing for Ananda, um, in the sense that it solidified our presence on the web. And actually, I think today we could even say it strengthened our meditation groups around the world. And we've actually had some created over the last 3 to 4 years, uh, partially because uh, people were pushed against that pandemic and had to not just reach out because they wanted companionship or friendship or a social connection, but they wanted something much more rich in their lives. You know, our path is never going to be one where millions of people are going to jump in. First of all, the spiritual path doesn't attract as a large percentage of the overall population, partially because not everyone's ready for it. Everybody, it's sort of like being a child. When you're born, you've got to explore. And all these souls that are here on this planet are here exploring, trying their best, maybe making lots of mistakes, just like we have along our paths, you know. But there's no judgment in that. And that's one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about in relationship to what our guru has brought us and the blessings that we have. Swami Kriyananda used to quote Master, and I've done this with some of you before in classes or maybe in satsangs, but um, Master used to say, just being here means you have very, 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 and Swami would actually yell it out, very good karma, and don't forget it. They kind of throw Masters, and don't forget it. And that's very true. First of all, we have the good fortune to be on the planet with all of its Maya and all of its challenges. But we have the opportunity to do what the great teachers of all traditions have basically um, discovered, and that is we have the blessings of a very efficient guru and philosophy and practical living to be happy, to be full of joy, full of light, full of love, to vibrate in a certain way, to be in attunement with the universal principles, to understand what true morality is, true dharma is. It's not about appeasing someone or pleasing a master. It's about fulfilling and knowing who you are, self-realization. Yogananda, it's been said by Swami and others, Jesus and great masters didn't come to tell us how great they were. And they didn't try to show us how great they were versus us, who would be little peons or little servants. Sometimes when people come to our path and they hear the term master for Yogananda, there's a little gut check, and you can see, they're a little nervous about that. And then it's when it's explained to them that master, as Yogananda said, means one who has mastered themselves. So in other words, he's an avatar. We consider him an avatar. We consider him our guru. So we can understand the level, if you want to, of perfection that he had reached. It didn't mean he still didn't play in the world and he still didn't probably has some gaffes and didn't make little mistakes. But that's not the point. He knew who he was. And to top it off, he knew who he was in the sense of being a conduit, a channel for each one of us here today. And anyone who willingly says, I will on this path, who makes any kind of commitment, like declaring themselves a disciple, when they say that Yogananda is my go-to guy, because this comes up all the time in the classes that I get to teach with Nayaswami Sagar and with others here on our Path of Kriya Yoga, our online classes that we do and in person. This question comes up all the time because more and more people, again, post-COVID, especially COVID and post-COVID, are coming to find what is meditation. In the past, people who came to us weren't so much interested, frankly, in meditation as they were in Yogananda. Today, the world has changed and people are aware of meditation and they're looking for an efficient, effective, healthy, easy to do technique. And we educate them for about 8 months or a little longer, depending on their circumstances. And then once they've kind of done what many of you have done and taken how to meditate classes, and then taken studies on the art and science of Raja Yoga, or living the principles as it's called online now. But if you've studied the yogic principles, then you think, okay, these are great, but there's something missing here. What is it? And that's what we're here for today as a satsang. We're not here so much to share how to meditate, but as a reflection and reminder as to the blessings that we have. One of the ways I learned how to pray years ago was through the tradition of religious science. Not a very old tradition, but it goes along with the same principles that the Vedas have. But one of the ways that you pray and do healings is you remember God, you unite with God, you specify what your circumstances and why you're wallowing in the mud and how you want out. You specify, and then you release it. You give it to God in that tradition. Here, the go-to guy is Yogananda, to make it very practical. People ask, they say, well, I love these teachings, but I'm a member of the Baha'i faith, or I'm a Catholic, or I grew up Jewish, and I feel a tendency to have these traditions. That's great, really. It's wonderful, and that's a blessing. But we have an advantage for us, because this is our path, to have the additional blessing of a guru, of someone who said they would come back. They said this in writing, they said it in person, energetically. Yogananda said he would come back again and again as long as one stray, I'm going to quote him, brother, but brother, sister, was left behind. He'd come back, sort of like behind Peggy, the ocean. He'd come back on his boat time and time again. And what does that mean? Why is this really a blessing for us? Because it's not about being alive when Yogananda was alive and having him physically come up to you and bless you. Yeah, that would be wonderful. If you're a devotee, like most devotees, you would think about that or imagine that and enjoy that dream or that vision. But the real secret here is he said, this is not my body. This is not who I am. This is my body, but this is not who I am. That's what I'm trying to say. If you're thinking that this is me, the pictures of me and that, they're helpful, but that's not who I am. Tune into my consciousness. And that consciousness is what Swami Sri Yukteswar writes about in the Holy Science when he explains time and space. And he talks about Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss. And these aren't confined to the Big Bang in the moment it happened, and then getting little bits of it drifting through the universe that affect us. No, this is saying that is alive now. And the guru is alive now. If you follow the logic, if you want to use logic in this, great, but let's use logic the right way. If God is ever existent, ever expansive joy, existence, consciousness, and bliss, it's eternal. And the guru says, I'm not Yogananda, is what he's saying. I am that essence. I have merged with it. I've this taken human form, and you have taken human form as from that same essence. But part of the game here is that I've been sent to awaken you so that you can experience who you really are. So this is a very personal relationship, this path and this guru. And I would suggest, and I advise a lot of people to do this, you can think of Yogananda as an inspiration, as an avatar, as someone who lived at a certain time and a great inspiration for you. But have a personal relationship with him, with the consciousness of the guru. And if it helps to project onto that consciousness the physical image of a Bengali Indian or someone with long hair, if that helps, by all means do it. I do it all the time. When I talk to Master, I envision that he's in that same form. I don't hold him to that. I know he's much more than that, but it helps me, it helps the little child in me relate better to what he came to be. What he came to be for us, I think really is important, is to show us the real meaning of what Satchidananda is, even more simply than he gave it to us when he made it from existence, consciousness, bliss to ever new, ever expanding joy. I really am firmly convinced now that if you had to take just 2 words for the whole thing, it's about divine friendship. And we can think divine friendship is between us, and it is. But real divine friendship is dependent upon that essential loving quality of spirit that's ever new and ever expansive, without judgment. It plays, it materializes, it manifests. It's created us as one of the, at least in our knowledge, one of the highest consciousness forms in physical aspects. Who knows? I have to believe there's greater ones than us somewhere. The universe is too expansive and too big. But for what we know right now, this is a joy because we have the opportunity to explore more joy. He said you go on until you achieve endlessness. So what does that mean? It means that whatever you think you know now, there's even more in terms of the bits and pieces. But more important than that, I would say, especially because I work more on the discipleship level with individuals, is the opening and the expansion of the heart. Hi, Monica. Um, and that heart quality is not the physical heart, but it's the feeling we get when we know we have it is in the heart chakra area. And we can let that expand. Our techniques help us to practice expanding that feeling and others, though, but specifically for the heart. And the heart quality is probably the most important of, of all the qualities that we have because it allows us to know who we are. More than the head, the heart is a reassuring presence. The mind, the head, represents trying to, for most of us, is wanting to dabble in philosophy and looking for um, all of the small attributes of everything, and that's great if it's used properly. But if it's not used properly, it's about forgetting the heart. But when you bring the heart into it, you can check the mind games that your consciousness, your little consciousness is playing, and check it against those eternal 8 aspects of spirit. Does this circumstance, does this gathering that we have right now, does it feel expansive with love? Okay, so far, so good. It's dharmic. Do I feel empowered by being with this group? Do I feel a sense of power, energy? Yes, I see a heart there. Yes. Pick another one. Calmness. Does this bring me more calmness? Now, maybe some of us get anxious when we go in public, but ultimately, does this help with calmness? And shares Kitty. Kitty brings calmness. Perfect. Yes. So we're in Dharma. We know we're in Dharma. When we're in Dharma, we're in a better circumstance to allow the flow of energy, the greater the will. So we're willing to get together. We're willing to share power and peace and joy and light. You name them all eight aspects. And I guarantee that if you find them, you know that you're in the ray. And then if you're in the ray, imagine and visualize the energy in this antenna, which is your body, which is your declared presence. It's your home on this planet. See it not just as a physical form, but see it as an emanation of light. And then you can do what Swami invites us to do when, let me see if I've got it. Where did it go? Well, anyway, what Swami reminds us about, again, the purpose of Ananda is we're here to share joy with all those who are willing to receive it. And we don't lord it over them. We don't become egotistical about the joy that we have. But by being a pure channel and checking our own Dharma, we then can be a conduit. We can be, as I started the talk earlier, the angels. Master said, I am sending you angels. The Divine Mother said to him, I am sending you angels. And he also had a little retort. He says, well, at the beginning, there were a couple that weren't so good. But but we've gone way beyond 1950, I think, when that quote, when he said that on a recording. The fact is, he's been sending angels to us. Divine Mother's been sending the angels. He's been sending the angels. And look at the screen right now. You're looking at angels. We're angels. I firmly believe this. We're angels for each other. And we need, because of the nature of the ego, we need each other to reflect back to us that angelic quality. Because when I slip, I know that my spouse, and I'm not joking about this, my spouse is there to remind me who I really am. Sometimes that can be critical. I mean, you can have that element in open relationships. Swami could be very, Swami Kriyananda could be very strict with some people if they could take it. Master was the same. We know that the stories of Swami Sri Yukteswar, very strict. Yogananda said he welcomed that. He needed that because you have that divine friendship behind that guidance. So that aspect of master and disciple, so important. It's not, again, to have the feudal concept of master, boss, king, and the follower to do their beck and call. This is a master of themselves who willingly comes because of the nature of divine friendship to us and says, this is fantastic. If you only knew, here's some things you can do to wake up. And trust me, when you wake up, not only will you know, but even in the process of becoming awake, you're going to have a great time. This is going to be an adventure. So, when you look at our path and you look at the tradition of this path and you look at the challenges, I don't know another path, and I've been on other paths coming here. It's been 30 some years since I've been on this one, but I've had a background of others, and I've been introduced to many other paths by meeting many people around the world. We have, in my opinion, the most practical techniques and the guidance of someone who said over the last 100 years that they would be here for us whenever we needed it. Now, how you find him in your life is a personal matter, but I would say come into it like a child. Come into it as spiritual leaders always talk about it. Leave everything at the door and come into the light and simply ask. When people say, how should I pray? I said, you have a guru, pray to the guru. Say, this is the best I can do. Now, you told me to come to you for help, so I'm coming to you. And Yogananda himself said, that you can go to God, and the aspect of Divine Mother, he said, is the most effective because the mother can't refuse her child. And that's the divine friendship, that love that we have with God. God so loved our world, our unique little world, that for us specifically, he sent a guru. She sent us a guru. With the understanding of what that is, we can now understand God, Spirit, Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, all these different aspects even better. We can appreciate people who aren't on this path. We can appreciate great masters of all traditions because we can be in attunement with one who was. And they promised us that. And, this isn't just what we call pie in the sky, wishful thinking. Some of my best friends are people like Jyotish and Devi. When I say best friends, I'm not talking about buddy. We go out and we party together. No, but real, sincere, divine friends. And I'm using them just as an example because we all know who they are. But there are thousands, thousands of people around the world right now who are declared disciples of Yogananda through this path from Ananda, and even more from other traditions that have Yogananda as the guru. We're all connected. There's a synchronicity that takes place when we are in attunement with the guru. We create a web, World Wide Web, literally, that exists right now to make this happen. But in general, energetically, what the guru talked about was creating this vibrant energy when enough of us come together, when we're gathered together in one name. Doesn't matter the name, as long as we know that it's that source. And not only do we have to pretend we know what that source is, but Yogananda gave us an image, the spiritual eye, not only to be infused with that light, but also symbolically to know what the aspects of that spiritual eye represents. And it's very comforting because the gold is the comforter. It's Divine Mother. It's the Om. And the blue is the Christ consciousness. That's why Ananda uses blue in a lot of different symbolic ways. I'm convinced Swami gave it to us because it was the Christ consciousness color that Master talked about. It's the field we go into. Supposedly, when you have a near-death experience, you go from an all-encompassing warmth of Divine Mother, but you also go into what seems like darkness or space, but it's the blue aspect that awaits us, that unites us with the Father, Mother, Source. It's the venue we kind of go through. But that's the tot. The Om is Divine Mother. That's the gold, the blue, the Christ consciousness. So we have that aspect that's always there, that's reminding us that we and our parent God are one. And so even if you don't see the little white star that Yogananda says to look for when you do your Om technique, or if you're contemplating the symbol of the spiritual eye, even if you don't see that light, you're in the Christ consciousness. You got Divine Mother around you, you got the Christ consciousness, and you just keep looking for that. Some call it the great pearl of wisdom, some traditions, the same image, but with a pearl. And Yogananda's, ours is with a star. And he said the star also represents how the consciousness developed into the human form. We're kind of like Da Vinci Man, right? If you see, we are that physical conduit for the ability for us to know God, that we've been given and gifted this gift. So there's so many ways that our path is practical. I invite you now, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me about, our path or applying this, or if you're comfortable sharing a circumstance that you'd like maybe some insight on.
Just another beautiful example of practicality. Thank you so much. And it reminded me of because you were speaking earlier about how now people are seeking this meditation, and it's I can't speak for everyone, but I know for myself that you learn the Hong Saw technique, and you sit there and you practice and practice, and you analyze, and you're in this mental part. But until you bring it into that heart and share that with Yogananda, that what people are seeking from that. And I think that's on every element of that path. So it really rings true that each step of the way, it's the learning here and then bringing it to here. And I was wondering whether you could share some ways to also bring that into whether it's in our group things or whether it's, even going to work, that practicality, like we have the practicality, but it's until we bring the heart into it that you start feeling Master's presence around everything that we do.
And I just might add, just to encourage everyone, as you're writing in the chat, we will go through them with Premdas Ji in order of how you've written them. And then if we run out of time, we will follow up, because we're very good about that.
Well, first of all, I think it's your question on basically the way I'm interpreting it is, okay, so I get up in the morning. This is my life. I get up in the morning, I meditate, do my techniques, and I don't just like, okay, I'm done with those now. Now I'm going to get practical. Well, one, I can't just do that one because I work at the Ananda Sangha, so I'm kind of guaranteed I have to stay focused, right? If I am not focused on this path, I hear about it very quickly from the looks and eyes and my good friend who you'll be meeting in a few months, Nayaswami Premdas. He'll ask me very nicely, is everything okay today? How are you doing? Oh, okay. So I have to practice what I preach, literally. And even if I weren't in this position, though, it would serve me well to think of those yamas and niyamas that we have from our course materials and come up with your own simple definition and practical application of each one of those and try to live that during the day. You don't have to live all of them all at one time. Nobody ever really perfects these things, I believe, but we do our best. It's a matter of fine tuning them. So use them. Use in another form, similar results, use some of Swami Kriyananda's and Yogananda's affirmations. From all the different books and writings of Yogananda and recordings, and Swami in particular, we have oodles. We have oodles. That's another word for you, Kalamali. Oodles of of um, things that you can say and do to affirm and remember who you are, because that's it. I'm very fortunate in that I've had a lot of different students to play with over the many years, and they've become really good friends. And some of them want to be proactive, so they create things for me that I can share with others. And recently, one of them sent me a quote from Sister Gyanamata. Some of you may have seen this online, but it's a little it's a Buddhist monk, and it says, it's a quote from Sister Gyanamata, I am spirit. What is this trifle to me? This thought gives both peace and power. Well, something as simple as this little printout that I did, I keep it next to my desk and I look at it no matter what comes up. Yesterday, a situation came up where um, someone said they've been on our path for like 2 years and they're not having a hard time doing Hong Sa. And the question was shared with many of us who teach here. And what it was about is she would become anxious when she was uh, doing breathing exercises and she was being triggered into greater anxiety. Now, there's a lot of psychological stuff that we could go into with that, but the main thing that occurred to me at that point was, Master, I have a lot of experience with the field of anxiety between my parents and my family, and also a lot of study that I've done and a lot of ministering. But what's the best answer for it? And I thought, well, I don't know, and I have some things I have to do right now online to be with some people, some appointments. Um, I'm going to give this to you because no matter who's working on this problem right now, it's only one. And again, I am spirit. What is this trifle to be? I'm not going to let it burden me. I'm going to move on, but I'm giving it to you. Well, I did that. I talked to somebody on Zoom who had an appointment with me, and in the interview, I said, "By the way, what do you do? How do you spend your day? What do you do for a living?" "Oh, I'm a counselor." "What kind of counseling do you do?" "I work with people with anxiety." This is a new student who I'd never met before, who's a professional. And not that we necessarily got this one person with that person, but I got some answers to the situation that we were being focused on as a team here. And I wrote to them afterwards and I said, you may or may not be able to use this person, but just talk to somebody. And I feel like Master sent her our way at that moment so we can make a connection. It's up to you guys. What do you want to do? Anyway, I let it go. Point being is it's that practical. And you can expect miracles. They're not miracles. We're simply in a unity field where we're knowing and visualizing and emanating the fact that there aren't coincidences in the traditional way. There are coincidences and things are happening and available and unlimited potential all the time, but it's our own fears and our own egotistical needs that create blocks from allowing the potential to be seen and to be used. So that's the practical side. All of the things we've learned allow us to be more expansive and do what the masters have said is possible to create miracles, though they're not really miracles, they're just actually in nature potential, and we allow them to happen. But we, Master said, we have the benefit of having him and this lineage behind us. And we can call on Babaji, we can call on Jesus, we can call on Yogananda, we can call on Yukteswar, Lahiri Mahashaya, and Divine Mother, and we can call on the Om. We have all these things that you can personalize. So that's how you personalize it. And I chant almost all day. When I run, when I do things, I want to fill myself up with chanting. Now I listen to other things, I read other books, but good as part of my day is filled with Yogananda's energy through him or Swami or through our gurus. And I try to incorporate that into my life and live it. And I condition myself by putting things in my environment too, so I'm constantly being bombarded by them. My walls are filled with reminders of saints and sages of many paths. And I have symbols all around me from many traditions, but they have a special meaning for me because they all brought me here. And so I can be reminded when I'm feeling small or feeling lost or feeling dejected or depressed. I use these things to not allow myself to go into that endless pit of tamas, but I use it, and literally that's why I run a lot, is because my body type and my energy, my background, family background, I need to keep my moods up. My environment at some point in previous lives or this life was such that it would want to go into a shell. Well, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. So I do things to activate. So I use the concept of rajas, rajasic energy, energization, running, breathing with vigor. And then I can go from there to the aspect of sattvic energy by then calming that down, getting into the calmness, and then going with the flow of energy in a more subtle and more effective way. So you can use all those states of awareness and presence in them, but don't let yourself stick in that tamasic energy, which basically there's always energy, but that tamas will try to convince you that there is no energy. Whenever you feel that way, it's good to get busy. And as Yogananda said, get busy with your knowing God. It doesn't mean get busy knowing God. It means have some fun. Do something that brings you joy. If it brings you joy, it's God. If it brings you love, it's God. If it brings you peace, it's God. If it brings you power, it's God. If real power. Okay? And each of those can be checked by the other ones. So if you want to find out if it's really God's power, is it full of love? Is it full of calmness? Is it full of peace? Is it full of light? And if it's not, then you may want to back off from it or be aware of it. But you can prove this to yourself practically in almost anything you do.
Thank you. What a beautiful answer. I love it. Very practical as well. And it's, yeah, such a joyful way to live. And you live that, which is just even more practical in that sense. You know, you're a true example of that. I think I said that in the beginning. Mentioning that, I mean, you did mention around sort of having little reminders of different paths.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember. I was thinking about that. There was a statement around. I can't remember whether it was Swami or in one of the recordings from the Raja Yoga course when it was. I remember the little complimentary CD and that came in. But I think Swami spoke about, though, at some point bringing all the strands, and I think it was earlier on the path about getting all your strands so that you could feed them all through that eye of a needle. I think there was an analogy between those. Is there a point in this path, in a practical sense, where you know, you give up experimenting, you give up finding, you've found this path, you know, and you see the truth in all paths? Is there a practical experience in that way where you can sort of start honing in and feeling that truth behind all things?
One, I think it comes to each of us at a certain point when we say, okay, I'm now 45 years old, or I'm 50, or I'm 60, or I'm 70. I probably don't have as many years as I thought I'd have left. I better find out what really means the most to me. So there's a practical side where, you know, the years step in. And yeah, I love all these traditions, but I don't have the time for them. And the good news is, I mean, I have the time for them to honor them, but I don't have the time to participate in them anymore. And I'll honor it in others, and I hope they're doing what they do because it means the world to them, and that's what the universe has given them for their own growth. But for me, and I say this with humility, for all of us, we're all at this stage. When you've narrowed it down, you can go deeper and farther. This is what Swami referred to in his books in the ray of the one light. The ray of the one light. I mean, it's like, so we've got the sun, it's three-dimensional and more probably, but we're in one spot and we benefit from a couple rays, but we get one direct ray. Take advantage of that. That's God's gift for you. That's your relationship with the sun, that light with God. So take it, run with it, live it, absorb it. That it doesn't mean you ignore everything or that you judge anything. But what it means is what's practical for me right now. I see God in all of it. I mean, I really do. It doesn't mean I remember to see God in all of it, but I really know God's in all of this stuff, and it's helping each who are in it. But God's also in the grass, God's in the tree, God's in the animals, God's in each one of us. But which ones will help me right now? And I got to, again, like my prayer, okay, this is what I think. I think my partner is the best one for me in this lifetime. But I ask God, is this the one for me? I think it is, but you'll have to tell me. And Spirit did, and Yogananda did, and Swami Kriyananda did, and my friends who are in our satsangs and who educated me, you know, bless that relationship. That's just one example. So I offer it up, wait for a response. It comes. Yeah, and the same, I don't have the time. I don't have the time and the energy to follow 12 different paths that I honor and love and respect, but there's one for me. And I send people to other paths often, not often, but when it's appropriate, I tell them what I know about something and say, you should check this one out if this one's not for you. They all lead to the same place. It's a matter of how fast and is it yours. I think we have a guru that gave us a laser, like a laser rocket to get to God if we want it. Remember that we have God now. We don't have to work towards getting God. We have God now. It's a matter of how do we see, how do we know?
That was so beautifully shared.
Hmm.
Thank you. We have another amazing question. Did you have a comment?
No, I just wanted to make sure that Alexandra wrote, and I think you answered that before I even got that question. But if you feel, please talk about how Yogananda wishes to forge connections with other traditions that are true Sanatana Dharma. So I believe you answered that within that. So
well, but
really
he had many. His mission was not only to bring original Christianity, as he called it, and the teachings of Krishna, but also to unite the world when it's time. But he did his part. And he actually, when he established one of his earlier churches, he called it the Church of All Religions. And if you come to Ananda today in our temple of light, we have aspects of all the traditions all around us. We honor each and every one, and God gives what you need, each of us individually, even though we're on the same path. What we need, he'll give you an affirmation, he'll give you Swami, he'll give you Babaji, he'll give you whatever you need, you've got. And the same is true for all of that, whether you're Muslim or Christian or Hindu or anything else, New Age, use it. And then that, if it's true, it will lead you to where you need to go. That's how I came here. I came through, New Age traditions, but also Catholicism and Christian Science and a whole bunch of things and other Hindu traditions. But I was finally narrowed down for I found my specific family and guru. And I jumped in.
Running.
Thank you. That was really well put. I think people really love to hear about that more. So thank you for adding to that. I think we have time for another question, and then we'll see how we go. But this is from Puneet about the Hanuman picture behind you, and just more about sharing about why you have that there, its role in your path. Yes, we'd love to hear more.
Okay, well, Hanuman represents the devotee, the exalted devotee. I often think of Swami Kriyananda kind of like Hanuman, even though there's no physical resemblance. Swami did have big ears, but not as big as Hanuman's ears. One of the images I love of Hanuman is he's depicted as bowing in front of his gurus, Ram and Sita, and he has his chest ripped open. And it's very similar to those who are follow like Catholicism or some traditional Christianity, where you have the Sacred Heart of Jesus. It's like, here's my heart. But in Hanuman's heart is a little Ram and a little Sita, because he's put God in his heart, or God actually is in his heart and he's discovered it. Either way, but he's committed to it. That one back there, which you can't see around it, is a modern map of India, and I happen to have Hanuman kind of in between India and Sri Lanka, where he kind of made the big jump in the mythology. But I love Hanuman because it's the devotee, and it's the bhakti yogi. Hanuman fought probably better than most of us. I mean, that concept of Hanuman, but also acted from his heart. And it's more of a feeling nature. And I use that, but it's a feeling nature that's in tune with spirit. It doesn't go against it. It's not just, oh, I want to do what I want to do, or I'm in love. And no, it's that devotion. And I love images like that, like Ganesha, like Hanuman. These things are full of meaning and deep symbols. and more than what you can just write about. And it makes it real and warm to me, even though it's an image, and even though there wasn't probably a real Hanuman that could get to be a mile tall and a mile wide and do all this stuff. There's meaning in that. If there's an encoding, a deep message in all of these great mythologies that's there for us, and that's shorthand basically for reminding me to be a devotee. And in the Mahabharata, in the battle scenes when Arjuna goes to battle with Krishna as his driver, the flag that they fly under is one of Hanuman. It's devotion. That supersedes everything to me. If you can't remember anything, just remember to love God. What did Master say in one of the talks he gave? He was recounting a story of talking to a devotee who came to a businessman, and he kept saying, "Love God." The answer, blah, 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 love God, and blah 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 blah. But love God, love God. Now get out. Get out. Just go and love God. Love God. That's the answer to kind of everything. You can say, well, the answer is Kriya Yoga. Well, Kriya Yoga helps us love God more when you practice it.
That is such a beautiful.
Great question, and
thank you.
Very enlightening. Love it.
Aw, it brings tears.
These images help us get out of our own personal way of thinking that we are this human being, that we as a human being have to be a certain way. Ganesha dancing, wonderful. Hanuman running among the forest and doing all kinds of weird, wonderful things. Love it. All these analogies of energies. They're just all saying this is an aspect of you. Why are you forgetting this? Have some fun. Joy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Puneet's also thanking you for that really helpful explanation. It's very inspiring.
Yeah.
So we all thank you, dear Premdas Ji, for being with us today. It's always really special and such a joy to feel divine friendship just emanating from you as an example for all of us. And we feel you looking out for this Sangha here, like you're a little guardian angel, speaking of angels. So we usually just end by sending out this kind of message of love and friendship out into the world. And so we'll go ahead and do that together. Whoa, sorry about that. Our door just slammed. So we'll just rub our hands together, and my mom and you guys, I saw her start it. So together we'll visualize this vibration, and let's all feel ourselves rise up to share this vibration with the world now as channels for the light. Peace.
I have a quick little something for you. When I was writing a note to you yesterday, when I was writing Australia, my word processor wrote in Australia.
Oh, I love
All you
that.
have to do, if you think of M as being master or mother, just add an M to Australia, and you've got Australia, and you remember who you really are and what you're doing there. So
It's beautiful. It also says a lot about you that it would correct it to be Om.
Well, what made me think about this was seeing the good merch you have on some of you. I like it. It's very nice.
Aw,
Many blessings to you all.
Thank you all for being here and a part of this. Thank you, Premdas. We'll see you all soon. We'll see you soon, Premdas. Look forward to our next time with you.
Joy.
Joy.